Okay, good evening, everyone. I'd like to welcome you to tonight's presentation of artwork. I'm Bonnie Maranka, professor of theater here at Lang and the curator of the series. This is our 10th year. Artwork brings together, or brings to Lang, many of the innovative artists working in New York now. Our guest tonight is the performer, writer, and media artist, Andrew Schneider, who creates work for performance, installation, and interactive electronic media. Last spring, Schneider drew considerable attention and praise, including an Obie Award, for his performance in the piece entitled You Are Nowhere, a challenging work that brings together narrative, technology, and theater, as well as involving the audience in a really surprise twist at the end. Schneider writes about his working process on You Are Nowhere in these terms, and here I'm quoting. I am interested in curating emotion without traditional narrative. I am interested in perceiving our own perceptions, in seeing ourselves see, in making you feel with your body what the show attempts to make you understand with your mind. End quote. The question is, where are we in Schneider's world? Nowhere and elsewhere and everywhere. Overall, his work embraces the future of multiple realities, quantum mechanics, sensory overflow, and time travel. From his background and study in interactive electronics environments, Schneider has moved on to invent wearable performance devices, such as wireless sound effect gloves and video helmets. He has created video systems for theatrical performances of the Wooster Group and video installation for pop music's Fisher Spoon. We've had a number of guests here at Lang over the years to talk about the ways in which they use new media. And all the while, they've charted different histories of technology and performance and interactivity. In that context, Schneider represents another step along the frontiers of performance thinking. His performance style, his sound and visual design, and his textual strategies reflect a restless mind steeped in ideas of the way we live now and how we might inhabit the future, how to represent it, in what emotional states, through what new languages. I think what is worth considering in Schneider's work of the last decade, aside from its exploratory, risk-taking approach, is the way that it opens up to the world of imagination. Today, works of the imagination are in short supply, as there are so many artists who prefer simply to document or replicate the social world around us. In fact, I would go so far as to say that people now have less respect for imagination than they once did. Yet, over the last 100 years, artists have often created imaginative worlds, new worlds, that spoke more truth to the human soul than mere factual representation. Since he works so close to the physics of what is unknowable, I look forward to what Andrew Schneider has to say about the nature of the human soul in extreme technological states of mind and space. So please join me in welcoming Andrew Schneider here this evening.
Thank you. That was wonderful. Hope to live up to that. So what I'm going to do now here is sort of give you sort of an overview of maybe like a trajectory of the work that I do or that I've done. I find it helpful to think about in terms of, especially when talking to people about my own work, and hearing people talk about their work is a professor of mine once said, you're just bound to keep doing the same projects over and over and over. They'll look different, but you just keep being interested in the same things until you can sort of exhaustively articulate these things. And so looking back at all of my work, I was sort of thought the same thing. I was like, the projects are so different, but in some way they're all sort of getting at the same thing. And I like to encourage that. So I think I'm just going to go into it. I'm just going to show you a bunch of stuff about my work. and that trajectory. And this is really not meant to be a formal talk at all for me. I don't know what you were expecting, but for me, that is not helpful because I'm a nervous person. So we should just hang out, talk about stuff. And, I also find it helpful if people have questions during about a specific thing that we should just like stop and talk about it, because waiting for end for the questions is sometimes not helpful, and then you forget them, and then we end up not talking about the things that you wanted to talk about, which is why I'm here. So, starting off, let's begin. Like Bonnie said, my name is Andrew Schneider. One down. I am I'm a performer, multimedia artist, and electronics designer. I started out by doing musical theater. My undergrad was in musical theater, acting, singing, dancing, and photography. So those two separate things. I graduated from undergrad. I moved to New York City 13 years ago. I was doing musical theater for a couple of years, like auditioning, going, like doing regional productions of Little Shop of Horrors. And like after the third separate production of Little Shop of Horrors, I kind of thought, maybe it's time to do something else. I love performing, I love being in a room with people, and knowing what that is about. Sharing experiences in a room with people, I think, is a very powerful thing. But maybe I can tell stories that are different than what Little Shop of Horrors tells. Maybe I can sort of like tell my own story. And it was also at the time of, like, cell phones had just come out. I'm really dating myself. Texting had just become a thing, and I was really concerned about the state of communication in the world. We had so much more capability to communicate, but we were saying less somehow, or the quality of our communication was going down. So I wanted to explore those two things in performance, I thought. And so I went to this graduate school here called, not here, just a little further that way, called the Interactive Telecommunications Program. Basically like an art school for engineers, engineering school for artists. And they just teach you how to, like, you know, make a microchip, make an LED blink, and they teach you how to make a web page, and they teach you how to use a laser cutter. And then it's up to you to find the application. What is the application? What is the application that brings the human beings closer together? And that's really where I started learning the power of that. And I take more from the things that I learned in like a weird tech graduate school. I use more for my theater making now than any of the theater stuff I learned in theater school, which is weird. But theater, traditionally, as an art, is sort of a little bit behind the times, which is also strange, because it's supposed to represent us now. Anyway, that's a digression. I make a performance about technology and the anxiety that it causes in our lives. It's all part of the show, folks. It's not true. So the first thing, I was in a sustainability class in grad school, and the first thing that I made, so I'm going to talk about objects, then I'm going to talk about performance, and then we're going to talk about objects and performance together. Like, it's an art school, right? So there's people are studying performance and visual arts and lots of other things, right? Yeah. Okay. Is it? Yeah, cool. Okay. Cool. So this is the first thing I made when I was in grad school. It's a bikini made out of 40 individual photovoltaic cells that are hand-stitched together with conductive thread. And what this allows you to do is charge your iPod at the beach. So it's a solar bikini. Which, with solar things, you usually want more surface area, but the bikini is such an iconic thing that I thought, why not make it sexy and make a solar bikini? And for me, this is a project that I really like because for me, I like it, and I don't know why I like it really. And I think you probably don't want to always talk about your work that way, but that there was an instinct that I started developing while in grad school. Where I was like, I can't articulate why I like that thing. I'm gonna keep pushing at it. I'm gonna keep driving at these ideas that I'm not sure why I like them, and then later on, I'll retroactively contextualize them later. So I was making objects, things that sort of like technology that you put on the body, because I was very interested in this. This was really at a time where wearables were starting to become a thing. Like, people were texting each other. People actually had cell phones that were, the smartphones were happening. Like, YouTube was just coming out. I'm just saying, this is the times that I was living in back then. So there were objects. I was making objects. And then there was, now I need to switch keynotes to the other keynote. Oh, no. Oh, okay. This is good. This is good. And we'll keep going on objects for a while. I was making media and devices that you could put on the body, because another thing that we learned right early on in grad school was sort of, you can think about computing in this way that you can think about also life and making, which is that you have input and then processing and then output. And the input could be anything. It could be a microphone or a camera or my eyes. And then this processing is like your brain does stuff to it or a computer does stuff to it. And there's output, which is, speakers or sound or gesture or, muscle twitching or something like that. And as soon as I sort of broadened my thinking to think like anything could be an input, anything could be processing, and anything could be output, I sort of, I don't know, I was very excited to use the body as an input device, basically. So I started making these devices that you can put on your body, and to control media. So these are the Performer shoes. Basically, there's like a wireless sensor on the back of that thing. Oh, that's the radio on the back of that thing. And then there's a photocell embedded in the heel. So a photocell is just like a light detector. It tells you how much light is coming in or not coming in to that thing. And so I put it on the bottom of the shoe as a really simple way to tell how high your foot could get off the ground. And then they're connected through these quarter-inch jacks. And basically, this is what they do. That's it. That is all they do. And actually, it's like not a very good interaction, right? Because to dance to a beat, you would have to just have the song be playing at full speed all the time. But I was really starting to get interested in, because I'm not a very good fabricator and I'm not a very good coder, I was interested in where these shortfalls could sort of be not a bug, but a feature. And sort of look at these things and say, how can I actually magnify and extend this in a way that's pleasing to me? So I was making devices like this that weren't the best to actually use in real life. These are the wireless sound effects gloves that I made in conjunction with the shoes. And the shoes would say, the shoes would dictate how fast a track of music would play. And with the sound effect gloves, I thought, well, maybe you can use the sound effect gloves to sort of change the track of music. And this is all just proof of concept stuff. I knew I wanted to I just had ideas and I just wanted to put them out there. And this is another thing that I'm going to keep coming back to is the way this thing that I learned, another thing I learned in grad school, which was which I use all the time in theater, which is sort of rapid prototyping. This idea of rapid prototyping, release early, release often, and put it in the hands of other people, because they are going to do things with it that you never intended. And I feel like that's the same way about my performance work, and we'll talk a little bit more about that later. So I was making things and just putting placeholder content into the devices themselves. This is then paired with the gloves. So it's all about just these proof of concepts for me until I figure out a way. Like I needed to make sure it worked before I knew what it was even for. And that's another thing I do with the performance stuff that I will show later is like, just I tend to hinder myself so much by needing to know what the whole thing is, needing to know what the end product is before and it became so overwhelming that I could never even take the first step. So instead of storyboarding the whole thing out, and this is just the way that I work, but instead of storyboarding the whole thing out and saying this is step 1, this is step 2, this is step 99, this is step 100, I started just saying, I'm interested in this idea, let's just do step 1. And then step 1 will tell me what step 2 is, step 2 will tell me what step 3 is, and it led me into all these paths that I would never have come up with if I had said, this is the thing I'm gonna make, I'm gonna plan it, sketch it out, prototype, like design it, and then like hit go on the make button. I ended up with all these things that would never happen without just trusting an instinct and then just doing the first step. Other sort of devices that I started fooling around with were so this is this is called the Blink Cam. And this was like before selfies were a thing. So it's a Polaroid camera attached to a bicycle helmet. And thinking about this idea of input processing output, Polaroid cameras, its input to make it work is basically a button press. So I was like, well, we could make something else press the button. And obviously it should be attached to my head because why not? And again, resorting to this use of conductive fabric, conductive thread, and I thought, what else could be a switch? And I thought, well, my eyes could be a switch. So I just went, let's just try it out and see what happens.
So one eye doesn't do it. The other eye, no good. But both eyes at the same time.
And obviously the byproduct of that is that every single picture is a terrible picture with your eyes closed. But who would ever want this? Why would you ever make this? But it's so delightful for me to have it be such a weird thing that people, again, it's another thing that I made where I'm just like, I don't know how to really talk about it other than I like the interactions that I would have with people while wearing it would be so great because it's just such an unexpected thing. And I think I try to continue that with the stuff that I'm making today. So, did we switch gears yet into the other keynotes? Let's see. I think we do. Right, okay, well, almost. So, making a lot of objects and realizing how those objects could facilitate interactions between people in a way that was becoming more and more appealing to me. And so, we live in New York City, we have our bubbles, and I was just thinking about how people don't really, it's a hard thing we don't have privacy, so we have to put up these walls, and it's very hard to sort of interact with strangers. And I thought, well, what if we take the devices away and we just set up a system that that facilitates interaction between strangers, but doesn't use any of these devices or anything. And I don't talk about this project a lot, but it recently got sort of revamped at a festival last year. And it brought me new interest in the project. And it is a sort of performance project, but it starts out with a website called Acting Stranger. It's the very basic website that I made, actingstranger.com. And you go to the website, you can read the about, the rules, scenes, be a stranger. And what happens is I write very, very short scenes, maybe a page at most. They're always between two characters. Those characters are always A and B. Usually what I try to do is have those scenes be either absurd or heightened emotionally, or an intimate thing happens between two people. And then I solicit people to read them online. They read the rules, they read the scenes, and some of these scenes are just stage direction. So this is a scene called the American Museum of Natural History. And I don't know if you can see it, but all it says is, a very long silence. It has to take place at the American Museum of Natural History. They're holding hands, very long silence, and then B says, "I don't love you anymore." That's the entire scene. It ranges from that to sort of longer scenes where, again, this is only one person talking, and this is just basically a monologue about how they saw this person on a train and they just wanted to tell them that they're beautiful. So sometimes it's between people who know each other, sometimes it's between people who don't know each other. And what you do is you fill out this form. You first and last initial, email address. We pick, you can choose any scene, you can choose either character. We set up a date, location, and a time. You memorize your lines. The camera is rolling when you get there. It's hidden in plain sight. There's no hellos, goodbyes, second takes, thank you, direction, none of that. You just have to keep going and say your lines. And it's me, I'm the other person, only because I'm a bad manager of people, so I tend to use myself in my projects more by necessity than because I'm anyway. And so we experience each other as these characters in the scene. Scene ends, we leave, we never talk again. The scene is videotaped, it's put up online, because it's hard. It's not the easiest thing to solicit strangers to come and do your performance project, where you meet up with them in a back alley somewhere. And the scenes are put online for everyone to see. And we should. Now I need to go to the other keynote, and we'll look at some of these now. So here is, so this is like the American Museum of Natural History scene. And that's it. We never see each other. We never see each other again. So it's simple things like that, and I'll just sort of keep talking while I play some of these. As this way to sort of facilitate any sort of interaction that you would maybe not ever really have in everyday life. Yeah.
What year did you do this?
So I did it in 2007, and I just did a couple tests, not a lot, and then we redid it. A gallery in Massachusetts wanted it, so we did a bunch of scenes in New York 2 years ago, and then a festival abroad wanted it, so we did even more.
When it came back, were you still using people who volunteered for it?
Yeah. You mean like, yeah, it's all just anonymous solicitation, basically. Yeah. And what we do, we actually try to put it on. We try to get non-performers, even though it's called Acting Stranger. We try to get people who maybe you can tell that people who have the best experiences are sort of the people who have maybe just dared themselves to do it. because it becomes an interesting thing. You know, there are these there's these real simple. Oh, sorry. There's these real simple ones where it really is just like two people just having a little experience. You know, the other one was I don't love you anymore, and this one is someone saying I love you to another person. That's it, and we never see each other again. And there's and some people show up and they just really don't know what's going on. They have no idea what they signed up for, which is problematic. We did it in a festival, and they linked directly to the sign-up page, and because it was part of a festival, people just signed up because it was a thing to sign up for, without ever reading the rules or anything that the project required. So things like this would happen. This guy has no idea what he is doing at all.
I've been sleeping with Tim.
This is a little nod, and you don't see this because it's interesting how we edit these things, but we just stayed there for at least another 5 minutes, just staring at each other. So I was like, is he gonna say his line? He's like, he's never gonna say his line. I'm gonna walk away. Which is, I really take the rules very seriously, or I try to, of this project, where we never see each other again, because it's this magical moment that, or not a magical moment, that happens, and that's important, but it was important for me to say whatever happens stays, and I can't direct it. I can't interfere other than match what they are giving me.
I wouldn't be able to. Do you promise? Yes, I promise. I love you.
And another thing that happens with this project is, so this is in Australia, and we filmed as part of this festival, and they wanted the thing, and we said, let's get the most out of it. And so we filmed 36 scenes in 3 days. So there's 12 scenes a day, and, you know, and I've never been to Australia before. So we just had a driver who was just driving us like mad to all these different locations, and we would show up at a place like this. Like, I didn't know that it was gonna take 1.5 minutes to carry that guy out there. Jesus. But that's the great thing about the project as well, is like running around making these decisions on the fly. But also it was sort of getting, it was getting to a point, it was getting away from the thesis of the project, which was to facilitate an intimate interaction with a stranger, right? So I was trying to write all these scenes that I was writing. They were just placeholders until they weren't placeholders anymore. And I was like, we have to do this. Let's just go. So I was trying to write like more, actually trying to write more interactive, more intimate things, like these two.
Yeah. My wife will be home soon.
One of my favorite things about this project also is that anybody can pick any scene, and there's not a limit on how many times a scene can be done. So we get a lot of repeats of the same scene just with different people. Yeah. My wife would help you. The cat. The cat in that one. I just want to show a couple more of these.
What's up? That's it?
So this is one that we did in New York last year, 4th of July. And these, we can just watch it.
If you want to stand there like a little boy who's wet his pants and it's too awkward to just walk away and do my dance.
So the audio's not great, but basically it's a fight between a couple. And again, this is like, I was struggling with this project because it was failing for me because it's not facilitating an intimate interaction between strangers. It's like asking people to come pretend to perform with me. And you can, it's palpable. I don't dislike the project because of that, but I do think the project is a failure in some sense because it doesn't do what I set out to do. I think the byproduct is fascinating. The sense of these people, it's palpable when they show up. There's this nervousness that everyone has. Like, am I gonna actually do this thing? You know, am I gonna like walk into this apartment and like take off some of my clothes and lay here and do these lines? It's crazy. And that's, I like that part of the project, but it wasn't really doing it for me. So I started trying to write stuff, like you could tell that people were performing and that's not what it was about. So I started writing things, oh yeah, sorry.
Just a question about that first series of videos. Did you talk to them beforehand? Or you're like, hey, welcome, or did someone say
No, there was, so what happens is you sign up through that form, you get an email back as if it's from a computer. I mean, it's me trying to sound like a computer. But like a form letter basically saying like, thank you for your participation. You've been confirmed at this location at this time. Please show up 15 minutes early. The camera will be rolling when you arrive. Like, look for the X on the ground. And then 15 minutes before the scene is scheduled to start. Like, we ask them not to come early, but to be in, we give them a 2-block radius, and then we say, be in that radius, and then we say exactly where it is about 5 minutes before. And then it's set, and then we through this anonymous number that we text them. And then we say something like, your stranger is wearing white shoes. You know, look for the person with the white shoes in the tote bag or something. And that's how they know. And then it's on. And then it happens, and then they go away.
the apartment scene, you just
Oh man, so logistically it gets really hard. The apartment scene, I think it was they had more of a it's like ring 6A, you know, the door is open, please, you know, like, and it gets so dicey, especially with that scene, because like you're entering someone's property. It's weird. So it's like the door is open, take off as much clothing as you are comfortable doing so, and like your stranger is like already here, just like it gets super weird because real quick it has these other connotations for some things, and for some things not at all. But it's always, every single scene takes so much prep, just because on the fly we just have to like pull the trigger at the very last second of like, I don't know, that shot doesn't look good, let's move the camera over here, and then like some police will come by and be like, you can't shoot here, or you know, so we're constantly scrambling around, which is a fun part of it, but yeah, logistically it gets a little crazy. Yes.
No one has caught on, like, watching the videos that a lot of times you're the stranger.
Yes. Well, for the festival, no. And we sort of, you know, we do it in it's just more efficient to do it in like chunks. So I struggled with that too. I was like, no, because initially I said no one should know who I am. It should be an anonymous project that's not tied to my name or my image. But I don't have a good way of making people know that I'm not a creep without putting those videos online. You know what I mean? And also because I think I do now think that the project can be consumed in several ways. It can be consumed by watching the videos solely, knowing the context around it, and it can be consumed by participating in the project if you choose to do that. And it's a little bit of compromise for me, like artistically with that, but I like this project because I'm still struggling with it, you know? So yeah, it's a question. Yeah.
Did you ever talk after the scene was over, or like were they allowed to did they ever ask you hey?
No, it's really strict. In the rules, it stated like there's no goodbyes or thank yous. Like we walk away. Like and I'll show you some pictures of with the documentation of the setups. But it's really just a camera on a tripod, and my sound guy is just pretending to be like some nerd on his phone, like just making sure no one steals the camera, and not looking at the camera, so that if someone sees the camera, they think it's just a guy standing next to a camera that's not on. Wait, what was your question?
If you guys ever communicated outside.
No, it's pretty strict, and like nothing about the project can bring us together. So.
How bad could that be?
For me, it exists in that moment and then never again. So it's like it's a slice of intimacy. And again, I think that's a great question because I'm like, right, how can it be intimate? So I was experimenting with people also there's some people who I think wouldn't ever do the project if, if they had to talk, and I didn't want to exclude people who didn't feel comfortable sort of like performing. So and again, you can choose either person to be. You can choose either character. It doesn't matter. So this is a scene that only one person talks, and the other person does something at the end. They get to I think they get to choose at the end what they do. There's like it's like character A, character A either, stands up and they slow dance or they, who's gonna play it, right? Or they kiss or they do something else. And this is not gonna play out. Okay. At the end of that one, there's this giant monologue about this guy who's just like, I'm really sorry, but I have to just tell you that you're beautiful. I just wanted to do that. And at the end, she slaps him in the face as hard as she can. And I'm bummed that one's not playing, but she I don't know why people choose the scenes that they do, or why they choose to do what they do, but obviously like that was a good thing for her in her life right then. So I'm kind of like, great, I'm glad to have been able to facilitate that experience where you slap a total stranger in the face. And then there were scenes where it was just like, let's not have any dialogue. Let's just see if we can actually have an intimate thing. So this is a scene, it's just stage direction. It's like A is laying on the ground, B spoons A for 2.5 minutes, B rolls over, A spoons B for 2.5 minutes, end scene. And even though it does say, I think it does say like 2.5 minutes. We had a problem with this one because this lasted for at least, this was like 45 minutes. And I was like, and then you're like, do they know that they're supposed to roll over? Do I induce the rollover? Are they just like having fun spooning each other? Like, yeah. No, I don't tell people what to wear. I ask that you tell me one piece of identifying clothing. So, I don't know what she said. What's that? Yeah, this one worked out. But this got more to what I was trying to do with the project, I think, because she has no idea where the camera is. I mean, like if she did, that would be crazy. And aside from the fact that passersby probably are wondering what the hell's going on, like this is a real, we just got to lay there for 5 minutes, or 45 minutes actually. And so I like it. A lot of people pick that scene. There's also there's also scenes that people pick that I forgot that I wrote. And this is a scene where one character's dialogue is in French.
Yeah, I said yeah.
I do not know French.
No, I broke. Yeah, I know. What? I said yeah, I know. What happens now? You want to go get a drink?
Mais est-ce que tu te rends compte? Quelqu'un a pas donné la cité de la police, c'est possible, tu le sais ça? Est-ce que tu le sais? Et c'est moi qui donnerai la putain d'immature. C'est moi qui ai réussi à tout remettre en ordre. Alors, qu'est-ce que t'as dit?
She said that she heard it from your roommate.
So this is really me just memorizing,
Did she?
as I don't know French at all, so I was just memorizing
Any fucking good now, does it?
memorizing the pauses.
Mais je t'emmerde! Mais c'est toi qui as commencé cette connerie!
Come on, you were always interested.
Parce que t'as mis des putains de polaroids dans la porte! Pendant que mon copain était là.
And more spooning. And so just to give you a sense of like what the actual setups are, because this is another fun part of the project for me, is like, this is the camera and the tripod, and this is like that picture's taken by my sound guy, like across the street in the car. So sometimes that's not like really hidden in plain sight, but it's really sort of inconspicuous the way we do the setups. Like that last shot where you saw the people on the ground, like there's a weird crazy tripod like up in the tree. That's a setup for that, carrying that guy under the water. So it's very, I don't know what that scene was. And sometimes we have to improv and just say like, let's get some, I don't know, there's no light, let's get some headlights. And there's that white X I was talking about before. It's like you get a text saying stand on the X. But they're really very minimal setups where it's just like anything, and it's always, it's in public, most of the time it's in public spaces. That's a sound guy, Bobby. But it's really sort of guerrilla stuff, which makes it a lot of fun. Here's this is filming from the balcony. It's a tripod taped to another tripod. There's a limited budget. And so this is usually what happens is the camera is up, it's rolling, and then I just wait for the person to show up. Sometimes I wait for 20 minutes because they're late. But they get there, they do the scene. And sometimes we have to set the focus basically for like it's a manual focus camera, so we have to set the focus. So we set the shot, set the focus, and then we leave. If they're supposed to show up first, we leave, and then we say stand on the X. But sometimes it doesn't go so well, so it's a constant struggle to sort of she's definitely not standing in the right place. So my sound guy Bobby we're texting live to try to get her to stand in the right place. She has no idea. And this is basically what every person who signs up for this project encounters, is like, you don't, like, anybody could be the person you're supposed to meet. I mean, unless you know, but, you know, she doesn't know what the sound guy looks like. But no. Now she's got it, but she's still, I just can't imagine what these people go through, and that's like part of the joy for me of this project is I think what I've come away with it most interested in is the experience that they're having from the time that they get to the thing, do the scene, to the time that they like tell their friend about it. I think that is like, that's the experience that I'm trying to curate, I guess, or like that's the experience that I like that I'm able to curate now with that, with this setup. So the project has really evolved. We're talking about this for a long time, but it started out as this one idea, and then I did it, I implemented it, and it didn't have the thing that I thought it had, but it did have all these other things, and I just kept driving at it until I realized what I did like about the project, basically. Oh, my sound guy also would like hide microphone. That's like a windscreen for a microphone right there. Always little ways to hide things so that there's as little intervention as possible.
How do we do this?
Excuse me?
How do we do this? What happens now?
What? I don't know. I thought you were...
First time.
Excuse me.
It's my first time.
Are you kidding? Virgin across the tube. Do you want to just go grab a coffee or something?
Yeah. Sure.
We'll do that.
But also to speak to that question of like, do we ever speak again, is like, it is a little sad for me, because some of these people, like you do share a connection with. There's another one where I carry this woman into the ocean. Also, it's weird the patterns that happen. Like a lot of men like being carried into the ocean. Predominantly men sign up for that scene, and they always pick. I've never been carried into the ocean. They always carry the person into the ocean, or I always carry them into the ocean. I don't know why that is. But you know, I really connected with this person, and in a real way, I was like, wow, that's the first time it ever happened during this. I'm always trying to provide this experience, and they like provided it right back. And then I got really sad that I couldn't call them. Yeah. Yes, especially for the festival, which was great. I thought it was great that they sign up maybe thinking that if they pick the gender role that is implied in the scene, that they will be provided with a scene partner that will be of the opposite gender role, or like this, you know what I mean? So people would show up, and some friends of friends have done it, And I've gotten word through the grapevine that like this one guy, he was like, I looked up, I expected to see this beautiful woman talking to me, and then it was this guy. And he said it just completely took him off guard because his expectations were just like immediately, he was just like, oh, this is not at all what I thought. And the same thing happens with me, is I don't get their names, so I don't know. I mean, a lot of people write their names in their email addresses, which is unfortunate, but I just ask for initials, and there have been times where someone has been looking for the space, and they said like, I'll be wearing a blue dress, I have black hair, and I was like, the blue dress, black hair person is like right there, and they're like looking around like they can't find it, and then I have this thing where I can't say anything to them outside of the scene, so just waiting forever, and then we just started staring at each other. I was like, it's like I gotta go do another one, so I was like, come on. Yeah. And then, and she, I don't know, it's amazing because she looks away, and I was like giving up in frustration, turned around, and there was another person with a blue dress and black hair. I was like, it wasn't her at all. It was this person. And things like that happen a lot, which is, I don't know, it's fun. So yeah, we had objects that we're trying to like curate interactions between people, performance trying to curate interaction between people. And then I graduated from that school. I mean, all these videos are from recently, but the project started back then. And I'm just gonna kind of I didn't know how much time we were gonna cover for certain things, so I'm just kind of gonna breeze through a little bit of this stuff. I went to work for the Wooster Group. I was their video designer. Oh, great, these slides don't even work. It's perfect. I was their video designer for 7 years, but what I was really interested in was performing. So I started to try to get really good at learning how to automate systems and program myself out of being necessary to run the systems. And free myself to be on the stage where I wanted to be with them. So it was all by necessity. I was like, I need to figure out how, like, I'm not gonna just convince them to hire a different video designer and then convince them to hire me as a performer. I'm gonna find a way to make myself totally replaceable in one sense, and then irreplaceable in another sense. So I programmed myself out of that, which is how I sort of fell into automating performance systems as an efficient way to, again, do this sort of rapid prototyping thing that we were talking about before. A way to get things on its feet very quickly, and a way to very efficiently test out an idea in its full-fledged form, to not have to sort of have a script and write things and then memorize them and then make a change and then re-memorize the change and then have another person do the same thing. Sorry, that was a clip of me programming myself out of the group. I'm just skipping a ton of slides here, which is fine. Yeah, so automated switching keynotes. Automating all these systems to be able to make a lot of work, or try to make a lot of work very efficiently, because resources are low in New York City, and there's not a lot of grant money, and there's not a lot of space. So, just by way of example, I was asked to, in my performance things, I was bringing my, like the gloves and stuff, I was bringing that into performance, and trying to like mediate the body and stuff, and I'm not going to touch on this too much, but what ended up happening was, again, with the acting stranger thing, is like really trying to get at the human experience and not using the tools to mediate, but using the tools to. I realized that those sound effect gloves and the shoes and stuff were just getting in the way, and what I was really trying to do was get everything out of the way. But I didn't know that until a long time later, after after talking about it like this. So I started trying to make performances, again, like driving at ideas I didn't know what they were or why I was interested in them, but I knew that I was interested in them, and why not just do them? So I was asked to make a dance. I'm not a dance maker, so I thought, great, let's do that. I'll just show this and then I'll talk about it in a second. This is a piece called Dance Field, and basically what happens is I use it as a way to get better at programming for myself, so I could use that sort of automated programming in other places to make the rest of my work that was on the way to being commissioned and things like that. So what's happening here is there's a performance that's happening. It gets interrupted by this flash mob of, it's like a running club, I guess, that bursts into the space, like kicks me off the stage. For some reason, a band comes in. It's just like everything's sort of going wrong, and you're not sure why it's going wrong. And it ends up being this big, joyous dance. And I wanted to have a big, joyous dance, but I wanted to not have that just be the thing. I wanted to contextualize it with something else. So I was like, what is like the, well, yeah, you know, you write what you know. I was going through a breakup at the time, and I had, I was like, let's cut this, let's put two things next to each other and see how they can form a third thing, maybe. Big joyous dance, something really shitty, someone breaking up with their lover over a cell phone or something like that. So I didn't know it was gonna happen, but I knew that I had to try it full out. So, and this is, we're gonna talk about this maybe if we have time in a little bit, but this is also the first time that all of these people are in a room together. And the way that we rehearsed this is using those systems that I was teaching myself, like, so everyone that you see on stage is getting cues in their ears about when, like everything's memorized, but they just, for timings and things like that, we had people be on sort of a click track, which we might get to later if we have time. But this is an example of that. So, I mean, you get the idea. And this was also a way to sort of challenge myself, because I'm not very good at telling stories, but I do have this deep fascination with moments that are sort of like not contextualized by anything else. But like a moment can make you have an experience and have an emotion. And I was interested in like, how can we do that in a room without actually following a story? And so I started doing things like this, and really it's been very hard to like trust that it's in any way something that anybody would want to watch or get anything from, because there is like, you know, sort of no narrative here. But sort of delving deeper into like curating that experience without having to resort to traditional narrative. So then, we don't have a lot of time left, right? No. Then I made this thing. You are no here, where, here, I'm not sure which it's called. And this, I really tried to take that to the next level of like, not, has anybody seen this? Yeah, it's really, tell your friends about it, because it's very hard to describe. But the room takes place in the theater space in front of you. There's a man there, he's trying to communicate about communication. It's not going so well. And halfway through the show, everything that you thought was happening was maybe not happening anymore. And so again, this was me delving deeper into, I sort of came up with this thing where I was like, this is sort of what it feels like to be alive right now. At least in my head it was. I'll just show you a little clip from here.
Okay, so the world presents us with phenomena, things that we observe and make note of, from which we must work to derive concepts that help us understand how those phenomena relate to the rest of our experience. There are more ways to be disorderly than to be orderly. This is a fact, and there is no state of maximum entropy. And when we aren't sure the final answer, it behooves us to ask the question in as many ways as possible. Every point in space occurs once, at each moment of time. And an event is the intersection of a location and a moment. Time is nature's way of keeping everything from happening all at once. So, the world exists. And what is more, the world happens again and again and again. And in that sense, the world is like the different frames of a film reel, a film whose camera view includes the entire universe. There are also, as far as we can tell, an infinite number of frames infinitesimally separated. But of course, a film is much more than a pile of individual frames. Those frames better be in the right order, which is crucial for making sense of a movie. Time is the same way. We can say much more than that happened. That also happened. That happened too. We can say that this happened before that happened. The other thing is going to happen after. Time isn't just a label on each instance of the world. It provides a sequence that puts the different instances in order. So thinking of the entire history of the universe all at once, rather than thinking of the universe as a set of things that are constantly moving around, is the first step toward thinking of time as a kind of space. And space, as we know, or as far as we can tell, is a set of tangible and physical phenomena in which you can stand with another human being and do things like whisper a sequence of words like, I love you. You there, here. Okay, that was my fault.
And so, so it's sort of like a collection of moments of for me, it turns into a neural landscape, as if someone's brain is controlling the lights and the video and the sound. And I needed to make it super hyper precise. And in order to do that, I needed to sit at my laptop, and just, everything I do, I program everything all at once. So it's like the text, the video, the sound, the lights, all gets done at the same time. As you know, traditional theater, it's like someone writes a script. There's a lighting designer, there's a video designer. And I think that all of these design elements are capable of telling the story in the same way, so that it's not just design, that it becomes an experience. And that's what I'm really driving at. And what I think is like, you can do something like you can do something 1%, or you can do it 99%, and it gets better from 1 to 99. And then you can do it, and then it's like a representation of the thing that you're trying to do, and then you can do it 100%, and then it is the thing. But the distance between 99 and 100 is so much bigger than like from 1 to 99 that people think you're crazy to try to do it. But then it really becomes the thing that you were trying to do. I don't know, and I think about that a lot as I continue to make work. Is like, this seems like a bad idea, but it's not going to be the idea until it's not going to be the thing until it's the thing, and it's going to be bad until it's good. And that sounds ridiculous, but it's what keeps me going, and running at bad ideas for long periods of times. And the only thing left is that, we're making the new thing, and I don't want to make the old thing because we already made the old thing. So it's sort of, what's the next logical step? And we're looking at, from this last show, it became a lot of, there's a moment that happens in the show where you really realize that everything that you thought was happening is maybe not happening, or is happening in a different way. And you stop watching the thing on stage, and you start, hopefully, watching how you're watching it. Or you start questioning what's actually happening. And for me, that's great, because then you're actually having an experience instead of like watching people pretend to have emotions, which I'm just not very good at curating. So that got me going, like perceiving one's own perception, seeing yourself see is just great stuff. And Terrell and Erwin talk about that a lot. And so we're trying to make a whole show that keeps that in mind. And we're trying to do that through the use of sensory deprivation. And that's a really hard thing to do, to make a theater piece that where you don't really see or hear anything, is not conducive to rehearsal or documentation. So we don't have a lot of documentation. But it's further making me understand that what I'm really interested in is like curating experience, and that can take any form. It just happens to be that theater has a sort of built-in audience performer contract, in which you get a ticket, you sit down, you watch a thing that I present you with, and that's a great way to have someone's attention, and then you get to manipulate that attention. And I find it to be a great medium for me, rather than cinema or television or something. I think that's it. I was going to do a tiny little. Here's sort of like, here's the engine of how the show gets run, but I think we're a little over time, so I don't know what happens now.
How much time do you need?
For the demonstration?
Yeah.
I mean, we don't need to do it. I don't think we should. We should keep it a secret. Yeah, that's it. Thanks. Questions, or do we just mingle?
So for You Are Nowhere, were you prompted, and then how is the teaming system?
That's what the demonstration was going to be about. No, but it's good. I'll just bring up, I'll just show you a bit of how that works, because it's a very, very fast show, and all of the lights and sound and video are all pre-programmed. Except for, there's some interactive stuff as well, but for the most part it's pre-programmed. And it needs to be that hyper precise. So we needed to sort of find a way for me to keep my timing correct. And the way that we do that is through a program called Ableton Live, which is just a timeline. And it plays audio. And you can put MIDI notes in there, and you can sometimes put video in there. But the way we use it is a way that people probably, it's for a lot of bands use it for playing parts of the track that aren't live, that they can't play live on stage because they can't hire musicians. But it's the engine for the entire show. I can't go that far. I understand. Just go here. here, and then that thing, all right? Okay. So this is the entire show. This is all the audio that you hear, all the MIDI notes that are in here trigger, the MIDI talks to another program which triggers all of the lighting. We don't actually have a lighting console. It's just, it goes through a DMX to USB thing. And then we have a different program running video and a different program running some vocal effects. And basically what happens is, you can see here, like, this is Andrew's ear, there's some AJS Vox, there's different speakers, and so I'm hearing things like, I think I can just play this through here. I'll just show you a little bit of extra not 3, let's make it 1, 2. So what you hear as an audience member, actually let me do this. What you hear as an audience member is sort of, what's a good place to go to? You know, let's see. So this is the very beginning of the show. No one really knows what's going on here. Yeah, we hit play once, and then we kind of. So there's like some audio effects that just cue the lighting thing. We should really talk soon about what's happening. More sound effects, some lighting. But what I'm hearing in my ear is, I think this is gonna work.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
And then the second half, did you see the show?
Yeah, I was in the
I don't know what you're talking about. But, so for the second half of the show, the way that works is the lines are heard so that it can be that precise. Because we tried all these other ways of doing it, and it was impossible. So this is a way. Also, this is a way to like wrap a prototype for me. So I just record. The script was never written until the show premiered. You know, like until like 2 months after the show premiered, someone was like, "Can you send us a script? We might want to book it for a tour." And it was like, "Oh, we don't have a script. We need to write it down." This is crazy because everything. Because the way I make work now a lot is just I'm surrounded by books, and I'll read some books. I'll read some like nonfiction books that are exciting, and then I'll just cut and paste in these waveforms instead of cutting and pasting in like a Word document. And then so we had to retroactively like go back and write everything down. It's also a way to, you know, this is the only way to keep the show as hyper precise as it is, and it needs to be hyper precise because it's not. If the lights and the sound go kind of together, it kind of looks cool. But if everything is perfect, then but for me it's that 100% mark where it's just like I'm feeling the thing, I'm not watching the thing anymore. It's happening to me. I'm not, you know. That's the level of like precision I needed to do. So this, I mean, not, you know. It took me like 3 years. I mean, I didn't take 3 years off of my life and just like do that. But in between tours with the Wooster Group, I just like really drilled down and did all that stuff. Yeah. Anything else? You say anything?
So do you find that with your work that you're creating in theater, that it's not any traditional theater you do with emotional landscapes and conflicts, and you're creating these experiences with them, but do you find that with your performances being so precise and having the words have to happen at a specific moment, the beat has to be this long, that the show can't morph and it is just more in the presentation of the emotional landscape?
Right, because it's on a track, because it's all pre-programmed.
Yeah.
How can you change?
Well, yeah. Do you feel like in your acting, you wish you had more, or is it?
Well, the other thing is
more than that?
the other thing that happens is it's this great structure within which to play, and we really get to ride the whole thing. And every night, because there's long swaths of like where I'm like, bring the house lights up, and we just talk to I just talk to some people, and that is all off. Like there's no timings there. Like now I have but in the beginning it was just me making it. So I would ask my buddy at the last second, like, hey, can you hit the space bar when I tell you to hit the space bar, and then don't touch anything. But now we've been fortunate to be able to bring it a lot of different places, and so we now build in structures where they know when to stop and start, and like we have all these weird little internal cues that no one probably ever sees. These like little signals and hand gestures that is like keep it going or like hit the next cue. So it really is great because there's this internal world of hearing all the stuff that's going on, trying to communicate. The show being about failure of communication. So, I mean, some of what the show is about. And then these moments of like, it's so hyper precise, it has to be so fast and overwhelming, and you're not meant to get everything, and it just washes over you. And then we cut all that out, and then we're just people in the room. And it's like, suddenly, I mean, my hope is that suddenly we realize that, sort of like collectively. Like, we're talking about science and physics and all this stuff, and then it comes back to, but physics exhaustively explains reality. Love is contained within reality, so like, let's also talk about that for a second. And it segues very quick, and that's the only way I know how to try to have an emotional experience in the theater. I mean, I could try to write like a couch play, but I don't know how. Yeah.
What's your favorite reaction at the end of Act 1?
That I really, it's so wonderful to see people go like this. And for you, those of you who haven't seen the show, you have no idea.
I'm pretty sure I did that. I'm pretty sure.
And then once, the switch, once someone was like, that was amazing. That was probably my favorite ever. You guys, you have no idea what we're talking about. Once you see the show, reminds me. Yeah.
So initially you were talking about like doing different projects and the same kind of thing is being presented in each project. And
You're having a hard time following that?
no, I'm just curious like how the Strangers project connects like with this one and what's kind of the through line with your work for you.
For me, yeah, and it's always changing. I'm always like talking about it and being like, why did I ever make that? Like, why was I interested in that ever? And it's really is like just like setting up these experiments, sort of to get closer to what it means to be a human being in physical proximity with another human being that you don't know. I think because these performances I have, I get to do them for different audiences every night, and we get to like hopefully share like a real thing. And for this show, like a lot of times that happens. It's like we all like share a real experience together, and you can feel it. And with Acting Stranger, that's a failure, but that's what the interest in it is, and like it ends up being something else for me, but I think it's always comes down to, and like I think it's just kind of a fluke that I make theater. I mean, I went to musical theater school because I was like, oh, I want to like sing. But I really think if I was good at like sculpting, then I would be making I would be making projects that were trying to do the same thing, and I also think that I might have ideas for like an installation that I want to make that is just not theater at all. Like it doesn't matter what the form of the idea ends up being. It's like, what is the idea right for? Oh, it's not a theater piece. Oh, I should just make a sculpture. a lot of the time, this is a different story, but a lot of the time I'm like, we should make a show about that, and then we'll like get halfway there, and I'll sort of say like, we should have just had a really long conversation about this, not made a show about it, because the conversation would have been better. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, can I add one more thing?
Yeah.
Then when you're like deciding which projects to do, or to have a conversation about it, what kind of like is a thought where you're like, oh, I'm definitely gonna make this into like an experience rather than like the commitment to a project and when that was like solid.
I mean, some projects come and go in 3 weeks, you know, where it's like there's a deadline and it's like we got to do this thing. Like I just made a show at the university I used to go to, and it was like it has to be about something. We're making it from scratch. It has to be about something. But it ended up being the thing that we wanted to make. And but I mean, it's usually projects just gestate for years, and like the other great thing is like we'll be making things in a room and we'll make something that's totally wrong for that project, and I'll think like, great, let's put that on the hard drive where all of the terrible ideas are that are done, and then we can go through and see what those want to be later. So there's all these little orphans like little islands of ideas, and that's how this show got made. Like, I never wanted to make this show, you know. That it wasn't like I have an idea for this show. I'm gonna sit down and write it. It's like I'm interested in this thing about physics, and I'm interested in this thing about time travel, and I really like direct address, and there should be like I like pop music. And then you sit down and work on all these things, and there's no connections between them ever until you move them closer together, and you start to see where the connections are. Like in the next show, sensory deprivation. It's like, and I was a rock climber for a while. I was really interested in what happens. Like exploration really fascinated me. I didn't think that those two, didn't put together that like, oh, they could probably really go together. So now we're trying to make it about sensory deprivation and mountaineering and whiteout conditions and hallucinations. And you trying to use, you know, Robert Irwin design methods of like these Ganzfelds as a way of creating sensory deprivation without resorting to darkness. I'm going to just keep talking, and it's like not your question at all. But islands of ideas that slowly form webs. Okay. Anyone else? Everyone's just waiting for the food. Cool. All right.